I had visualized multiple times this baby like coming out and like pulling the baby. I keep saying the baby because I didn't know the sex, to my chest and like hugging it or kissing it and just smelling the baby and incorporating all of my senses into this. And you and Lennox being there and my mom being there and the midwives. And so the safety of it, like really creating the safety of our birth ahead of time. But then when the time came, I never once felt scared. I had even told Kayla that I didn't.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're listening to the Revive Couple Podcast. We're Michael and Laura, and together we'll explore everything relationships, personal responsibility, feminine and masculine dynamics, communication, and just some all-around real and raw conversations.
Drawing from our 18 years together with a bit of sarcasm, humor, tears, a few f***s, and lots of love, we deep dive into the male and female perspectives on relationships and navigating the highs and lows of life together. Sit back, grab your love mug, and let's get into today's conversation.
All right. You are not pregnant, and there's a monitor on the table. So what are we talking about?
My baby, is sleeping. So we had a baby, which is not a surprise. We've announced. We've announced that. That's not really new news. But this is the first podcast that we've recorded since we've had a baby. So that's huge because, I mean, not only have we not recorded a podcast, holy cow, I can't talk. Let's clarify that I definitely have like postnatal pregnancy brain for sure, or baby brain. There you go. But we've also successfully gotten our children to sleep at an appropriate time so that we could record a podcast together. That's huge.
That's another applause. I don't want to kill it with that, but yeah, that's a big one for sure.
Right. And it's super weird for me because like we have the monitor right here and I'm looking at it and I'm just like always checking to make sure he's breathing. But like this is the furthest that I've ever been from him because he's sleeping in his crib and I'm down here. And I was like, I told you earlier that it's weird because it's like you go from having this person inside of you for 9 to 10 months and now they're like not inside of you. So it's just like weird because you're just like, who am I? But also like, I'm thinking about this little person all the time. And I don't know. It's kind of weird, but.
No, that's awesome. I understand. I mean, obviously I've never felt that, but I do understand when you're explaining it to me today. I was like, oh yeah, that does make sense. Cause if you get really used to a good pair of jeans for a while, I could feel that. So I could just imagine
a
baby.
It's like very similar.
Oh, I can imagine.
So similar.
Actually, I guess my knife, I feel like that was my knife. If I'm away from my knife.
Yeah, our baby's just like your knife.
Some separation anxiety. So anyway, I understand. Well, it's awesome. I'm jacked. He's pretty sweet dude. It's funny because I always had like, I don't know what I had. Like obviously with Lennox, it was awesome, right? And that's our kid. And like Lennox was like my world, right? And that was my guy and like he was my dude. But then having another kid, and even when we were pregnant, thinking about it, I was like, well, like how am I gonna be, right? Like with 2 kids and in the sense of like making sure that everyone gets attention and making sure that everyone's like cared for and loved and feels loved and feels heard. But it's just a natural, obviously that's life. That's what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't even think about it anymore. It's just what it is. And obviously he's a baby, so he's quite attached to you. But at the same time, I mean, it's pretty awesome. And his temperament's a little bit different too, right? Like obviously we had Lennox as like he was our guy and that's all we had for a barometer of what we knew or what I knew anyway. And then it seems like Bear is just a lot more chilled out a little bit and a little calmer and like he's just laughing all day today, right? And obviously that changes day to day, but
don't forget to tell everyone that he's also been sort of colicky and crying every night for the past couple months.
There is that too. Yeah, there is that too.
It's not all wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful, but I think that a piece of that probably has to do with the fact, and sorry, I'm just like watching him. I can't take my eyes off of him. I'll watch you. I think a large piece of that has to do with the fact that one, his birth was a lot different than Lennox's, which is what we want to talk about. And we want to talk about our birth story because selfishly, we want to have this recorded for the future. But also, a lot of people ask, and we do think that this is very connected to the feminine, the masculine, and also relationships. So we'll tie that in there as well. But also, I was going to say, the second piece to that, I think, is the fact that he is a second child. And so, like, I'm not like on it like as quickly as I was with Lennox. Plus, also, I'm just like more confident in my mothering. So when I say on it, like I'm clearly on it with him, but for instance, like putting him to sleep, if he like tosses and turns or makes some noise, like with Lennox, I was probably like, oh, I'll pick him up and then like help him out right away. Right. And then he didn't sleep super well for a long time. So was that my fault? I don't know. Whereas now with Bear, I'm like, well, let's just leave him for a little bit and let him figure it out. And he does. And then like he just tosses and turns, makes his grunts and his groans, has a little few farts, and then he falls asleep. Which maybe I did do that with Lennox. I don't know. That was so long ago, it seems in my head. But yeah, they're definitely different people. I think we can't compare them anyways. They're different people, different experiences. And I'm a different person. You're a different person, right? So I don't know. It's neat. It's cool. It's funny that our last podcast was about like surrendering and trusting and will I ever have this baby? And now here we are.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, let's get into it then. So I don't know where to start with this birth story. What I guess start from the day, like that
Well,
day or
I
leading
guess
up, right?
I guess we could talk about that because remember how we were like, am I ever going to have this baby? Like, I don't even remember how pregnant I was on our last podcast. I think it was 41 weeks and something, or
Yeah, it
was
was
it our due date?
yeah,
I can't remember.
yeah.
But he came one day before being 42 weeks. And now I'm a pretty big believer on the fact that like that date's not, your due date's not like a hard and fact day. It's a guess date, a guesstimate. And but unfortunately, in being in the medical system, and we did have a midwife, so we had a lot more leniency. In fact, I probably, if I had a doctor, my understanding is that I would have had to push quite hard to not be induced before 42 weeks. But my midwife was really great about that. She just, told me the risks of what happens the longer I go, or not the risk that happens, the risks that increase the longer I go. And she knew that I was like dead set on being medically induced. I did not want to be. Yeah, I did not want to be medically induced. And so she was very like amazing and supportive of that. I'll just be like straight up and clear in saying that I'm not against the medical field at all. I think that we are very privileged to have that in today's day and age and to have that offered to us. But at the same time, I think that it's overstepped and overused a lot and depended on a lot. And so it was just not where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. We planned a home birth. And so at 42 weeks, so leading up to 42 weeks, I still did the non-stress tests. And that's where I mean, like, I'm not like oh my God, no, I'm not doing anything with the medical field. I still want to have a happy, healthy baby. And if there were ever signs of something not looking that way within him, then I would have definitely been induced or gone those routes, right? So we had like a one non-stress test, I think.
Yeah, for sure. One, hey, definitely.
Yeah, where like we went to the hospital and they hooked me up to, well, she hooked me up. Our midwife hooked me up to the thing that they put around your belly and just they checked the baby's heart rate and movement, I think, and like contractions or no movement and heart rate. So we did that. And then we did do the ultrasound, which I was kind of like on the fence about. I mean, in hindsight, always, right? It's like, well, I'm glad we did it. We know everything's good. But at the same time, it was very stressful and I was very stressed in it. So that's kind of what I think about the medical field. It sometimes causes more stress than needed. Oftentimes, in my experience of my pregnancies, it causes more stress than needed. But anyways, so at 1 day short of 42 weeks, I had acupuncture booked for my 42 weeks, like that day. But the day before, we decided to do castor oil. And so if you Google castor oil, and I am not giving medical advice in any way whatsoever, we're sharing our experience. If you Google castor oil and start looking on pregnancy forums, you might notice that a lot of people have negative things to say about it. And so I wanted to get some like unbiased information. And one of my really big go-tos, and this is like a pregnancy resource, is I love Ina Mae Gaskins. She's a midwife down in Tennessee, and she's on their farm, which essentially I think is like their own little like free community where she became the midwife and has delivered thousands of babies and has the best records. Out of like, I'm going to say like if in comparison to the States, I think, but her number of like C-sections, of deaths, of even just like having to be forceps. Yeah. Any sort of intervention is like so low compared to our Western medicine. And so it's super intriguing to me. But she goes through in her book, Ina Mae's Guide to Childbirth, she goes through a lot of like really amazing details. There's lots of resources in there. So if you've never had a baby or you plan to have more babies, I highly recommend reading this book. And it's just unbiased information that she just breaks lots of different things down. And induction was one of the chapters. And she broke down like the different pharmaceutical inductions. And then she talked about castor oil. And basically, she just says there's really nothing to say about castor oil. It's been used for centuries by indigenous cultures to induce full-term labors, but there's no money to be made from it. So
no, what was it? $3 a bottle or something like that?
Yeah, we paid $3. There's no money to be made by it. So therefore, there's no research into it. So therefore, she can't even really say like, you know, what the scientific research is as to why it induces labor, but it induces labor. And so I know on our last podcast, we were really talking about trusting and surrendering the whole process. And I was, but when I look at the castor oil, I was like, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And we'll see what happens from there. But I feel like I trusted and surrendered into just that whole day, into that whole process, and trusting that everything was working out the way it was meant to be. My mom had been here for almost 2 weeks. I was starting to get stress of like, are we ever going to have this baby? And I will just, you know, also side note that my mom had a stillborn baby at 40 weeks when she was almost 40 years old. And, or was she 40 years old? And I mean, I'm 36 and I had like a lot of these fears starting to come up, and I was working through them, and I had many good cries, as you know. And even with my mom and conversations with my mom around her experience and my experience, or what I was experiencing. But I reached this point where I was like, okay, it's time for this baby to come out, right? I'm all for trusting, which I did trust, but like also at the same time, I was like, okay, buddy, we're going to like give you a little boost out of here.
Yeah.
And I felt really comfortable and really good with it. And my midwife said she uses it quite often and it works quickly. And it either doesn't work at all or it works quickly. So let's talk about how quickly it works. Okay, so that morning I woke up. She gave me the go ahead because she also had like a few other women potentially having babies like that day. So that morning at like 7:30, she sent me a text and said, "You're good to go. You can take it. I have no other ladies in labor." But the funny thing is I just said, "Okay, sure." I still haven't even told her this. I don't know if she'll ever listen to this. I missed that part that I was supposed to wait for her. I was just like, no, I'm doing this today.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I don't even know if I told you this. I had like probably taken it. And then about 15 minutes later, I got a call from her or a text from her that said I was good to go. And so I was like, perfect, just took it. I was like, well, damn.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize
we
that.
ain't going backwards here. So anyways, I took like 60 mils of castor oil, which is kind of like, interesting. But then, so it clears you out. Anyone who doesn't know what castor oil is, it's like a super laxative, basically. Like it clears everything out. And basically her instruction to me was if I take 60 mils in the morning and then you wait like a few hours, and if there's no labor really like happening, then you can take another 30 mils, I think. And then if there's still nothing really happening, you can take it one more time. But after 3 times of taking it, if it doesn't work, it's not going to work and you're not supposed to take any more. Like you can't, oh, they don't want you to OD on it. And so I took it in the morning, cleared out. By lunchtime though, I was like, it's not working. Like I had a little bit of like stomach cramps, but nothing excessive, nothing I wasn't uncomfortable with. I mean, I was on the floor that morning, like 42 weeks pregnant, making a tape hopscotch
Oh yeah.
with Lennox, which will be more relevant towards the end of the story as well. And so finally, I don't know, it was like a little bit after lunch, I was texting back and forth with her, which I will just say, if you can get a midwife, it's amazing. Like literally to be texting my care provider back and forth on my phone, like the day I'm in labor, and just like, I wouldn't do that with my doctor. Right. So I'm just like so grateful for all of that. So support midwives because they're also not really funded very well and they're hard to get into. So the more midwives, the better. But anyways, so I texted her and she was like, okay, well, tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what's going on. So I told her and there wasn't really much going on. So she's like, okay, take the next dose. So I took the next dose and then kind of just like hung around the house. It was a pretty lazy day. You were down here doing some work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Most of the day I was, yeah.
Yeah. My mom was here. She started like making supper. Like she was starting a meatloaf and like peeling potatoes and doing all that jazz and just doing what moms do and hanging out. I think wishing desperately that she was gone home because she was here for so long. And Lennox was just playing. And I was just kind of like in and out of the bathroom, obviously. And then I had a nap. And I remember, I think it was like 4:30 in the afternoon or something. And I was like, it's not working. It didn't work. I'm like, I'm never going to have a baby. I'm never going to have this baby. And then you and Lennox came into the bedroom and I had just kind of woken up from a nap. And I was like, whoa. I just felt something. And I kind of say it was like a pop or something. And everyone's like, oh, your water broke. I'm like, no, my water didn't break. So I don't know. It was like, maybe it was him like really moving into somewhere or something. I don't know. But I never ever once in my labor with Lennox or in this labor have experienced a stomach contraction. I back labored with Lennox for like over 20 hours. And then same with Bear, I didn't have stomach contractions. And in fact, I barely even had any backache. I just went to the bathroom, but there was just something that felt like it was like moving. And then all of a sudden, well, you were in the room with me talking and I said, oh, I'm feeling kind of uncomfortable. I think I'm going to have a bath. And you went downstairs to go back and work some more. And Lennox was down with my mom. And so I text Kayla and I was like, can I have a bath? And she was like, yeah. And basically I was just asking because I'm thinking, well, I don't want to like stop my labor if something's happening, because with Lennox, we planned a water birth. And as soon as I got into the water, my labor really like slowed down. So that's what I was thinking. Well, I'm just going to ask because I don't want to have a bath and then slow this process down if it's starting. And so I go into the bathroom and I remember like yelling down to my mom because I was like, remember how I said I didn't think this was working? And she's like, yeah. I said, I think that I might be getting contractions. And I said, I'm just going to have a bath. And she's like, okay, is there anything you want me to do? I distinctly remember her saying, is there anything you want me to do? And I was like, no, I'll just have a bath and try to relax and see what happens. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, labor's going to start. I mean, I labored for like over 20 some hours with Lennox. I'm like, this is going to be a little while, right? Like everyone tells me second births are faster for sure, but it's going to be a while. So in my head, I'm like, okay, it's like 4:30. We might have a baby by like in the middle of the night kind of thing, or hopefully by the morning for sure. So I start my bath, take off all my clothes, and I texted you because we have 3 floors, right? You were in the basement, I was upstairs. I texted you from upstairs because I wanted some water. I was like, can you bring me some water? So you brought me up water. And then you started. Do you want to say what you started doing and why?
Well, yeah, like
the shaving.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I shaved my face because like just so I could kiss you and hug you and stuff, right? Because like my face is like my typical like prickly face. So
yeah,
I shaved my face. Yeah.
But also because I've told you that like in the past, I was like, okay, so this is all I need from you when I go into labor. I need you to have a shaved face so that you have to like, and not hug and kiss me, but kiss me lots because we got to create lots of oxytocin. And then that will allow for the labor to go faster or just to like create more oxytocin and get this baby out. So it was really cute because I kind of forgot about that. But like you're up there and I'm about to get into the bathtub and you're like shaving your face. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. Thinking there's going to be time to kiss my face.
Yeah.
So my bathtub's like half full. I'm naked in the bathroom, but by now I'm like leaned over the bathroom cupboard. You're still like shaving, but I'm like full on getting like, again, not belly contractions, but like from my back down my pelvis. And I'm like moaning now, right? And you're like, is this happening like right now? And I was like, I think this is happening.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. It's like, you sure that, yeah, this is happening. Like,
I don't know what you were working on down here, but you never made it back down, did you?
No, because I was still working. That was a week. Yeah, it was a Tuesday. So it was a weekday. I was working, right?
Yeah.
Like doing consulting. And then, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And so I'm texting my midwife. She lives, like 25 minutes away from us.
Yeah.
Texting her. I remember her distinctly saying, are you feeling like poopy pressure? And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, I would love to sit on the toilet and just like poop, but I can't even sit on the toilet. And she's just like, tell Mike to start filling the pool. I'm on my way. And so I think it was just like a few minutes later, she called and she was on her way. And she said she called the other midwife because to birth at home, you would normally labor with your one midwife until it's like time for the baby to come. They're obviously aware of what they're doing and what's going on, but they call in a second midwife so that when the labor actually, like the baby actually comes out, there's a second midwife here. But Kayla had called the second midwife and she called the one that lives the closest to us, but they ended up meeting up at the on the same spot on the road. And so she was on the phone with me the whole time and just like kind of coaching me through. And I just remember saying to her, like, it's coming. And she's like, I know it's coming. It's like, obviously she's done this enough times. She could tell by what I was not saying, how I was moaning and groaning and that contraction, right? But I also remember thinking, I can't do this because again, I'm still thinking. So right before I knew like it's coming, I'm thinking that this is going to be like another few hours or something. And I'm just like, I won't be able to handle this pain or these waves. And then it's really funny because we were joking about it after. And it's like, well, no, that wasn't labor. Like that was second stage labor. Like that baby was coming out at that time. So anyways, it was really funny because then you aborted the mission of filling up the pool.
Yeah,
right?
That didn't last long because I had to put like fittings on the shower and stuff. And I had so much time last time, right? Or not even so much time, but like easily doable. Like we had that freaking pool blown up in our bedroom for like 2 weeks, just like leaning against the wall.
Yeah, the pool was already filled. You just had to fill it with water.
With air. I just had to fill it with water and get all that stuff and then get the bed ready and plastic and stuff on the bed. But as soon as like, wow, the state you're in and then like trying to figure like I didn't even want to go around because the tub was already filled and like do all this stuff. Like, yeah, this ain't happening. So we're not doing the water. And so then ripped the sheets off the bed, but that your mom was up and she was asking like if she could help, and that was one of the big helps. Was to start to get the bed ready and like make the bed and put plastic underneath and all that fun stuff. So yeah, things move really fast, but thankfully, like obviously we had everything ready
for like 4 weeks by this point,
and everything was in baskets and stuff, right? So I like had towels, laid everything out, and like had everything laid out quite well. So it was it went really good, and it was obviously good planning and like good, everything was like set up for a reason to do all that, right? And it was laid out really nice and it made things go really easy. Couldn't ask for a better deal.
And I think I would note that on if thinking about home births, because I remember when we planned a home birth with Lennox, a lot of people were like, had their opinions, which we won't go into. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that planning a home birth, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of prepping. So we were ready for it. But
InfoStack
What's InfoStack?
Great question. No, we teamed up with InfoStack, and we actually have our program Safe and Wild is going to be part of one of these stacks. It's going to be in the men's dating and lifestyle stack. So it's going to be, we've been talking about it, like a lot of a cheat code for guys for dating and in relationships, and it's going to be a great way for our audience to get safe and wild, because I mean, we talk about it so much beforehand too, right? So this stack, it's going to be available on September 6th, so the day this podcast goes live. The price is going to be $49. So yeah, $49 for this whole stack for 4 days, and then after 4 days it's going to get bumped up to $67 for the remaining 2 days of the launch. And it's only a 7-day launch, and that's it. Then it just goes away. So I mean, for $49 you could have Safe and Wild plus about $3,000 to $4,000 worth of other ebooks, e-courses, membership sites, all that kind of stuff. You have access to everything for $49. So it's a crazy deal. If you're ever thinking about signing up for Safe and Wild, I mean, we'll never offer it even remotely close to that price. Just to be part of this stack, it puts us in front of a lot of people, and it's just a great opportunity at this price to get in for Safe and Wild.
Yeah, so definitely you make a good point. If you were ever on the fence about wanting to purchase Safe and Wild, definitely check out the stack, because for what's $49 US, our program is $555 Canadian. So definitely a win there with a lot of extra bonuses. Even if you are in a relationship, grab Safe and Wild. But if you are a single man listening to this, then that stack's probably perfectly ideal for you.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's called the men's dating stack or dating and lifestyle, but I mean, obviously for $49 as a woman, like, get this for Safe and Wild, and there's probably some other things in there as well. And then you can always give access to your boyfriend or your husband for the other stuff too. So I mean, again, $49, it's
your
crazy.
Your boyfriend or your husband to start dating.
Dating you.
Oh, okay. Yes. Good point.
Yes. But again, the links will be in the show notes. The links will be all over the place that we'll have. So again, just keep an eye out for that. And like I say, it's going to go live the day this is released, and it's only 7 days. So get on it.
Cool.
Okay. So planning, crazy amount of planning went into it. And I'm so grateful that it did, because I felt like a superhero. I had all the different size towels lined up on the side, and like everyone was just getting towels, doing all the stuff. Meanwhile, it looked like,
No, you're getting too far ahead.
yes.
Back up, because now I'm still in the bathroom.
Oh yeah, where were you with this whole thing?
We shut off the bathtub.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. Did I shut off the bathtub, or did you shut off the bathtub?
No, I did. You were
okay.
preoccupied with some other things.
So I'm probably talking to Kayla on the phone.
Yeah, you had her on speakerphone. This, like, the phone was on the counter, and then anytime, is that what we're calling them? Waves? Anytime anything came along.
The HypnoBirthing is waves, but
yeah, you were definitely doing your thing through it, and then I was just squeezing your hips, and we were moving a bit through every one of them, right?
Yeah, what was my thing? Like, this is why I wanted to share this and talk about this with you, because we've talked about it, but also, like, I guess I was like super moany, hey? Like, I had to
a little bit. Like, there was no like screaming or swearing or anything like that. By
not like
means.
the movies where it was
No.
like, fuck you for doing this to me. I don't think I would be like that.
No, none of that. So it was, yeah, literally you were moaning, and yeah, you'd maybe be like, fuck, or something.
Oh, I
every
think
once in a
by
while.
the time it was
But
done,
yeah, you're
holy
like,
fuck.
but yeah, it was good. Like, I mean, you're crazy. And I'm sure that a lot of that hypnobirthing like played into that, maybe a little bit, even subconsciously, because we weren't fully into it this time. We didn't have the affirmations going. We didn't have that music in the background for that. But obviously whatever you did before clearly worked, or clearly like played itself back in, because you were very calm, I thought, like through all that. And then, yeah, like it wasn't like a crazy wild scene or out of control anything. You were just, you just powered through them, really.
Yeah, because I was just talking to Kayla, and then I'd be like, okay, it's coming. And then I do remember that. I remember saying to her, like, there's another one coming. And then I would have to like just really concentrate on it.
Yeah.
But what was really funny is, remember when she came at 36 weeks? So at 36 weeks, if you're planning a home birth, the midwife will come to your house and just, for one, to make sure she knows where you live and she's not looking for it for the first time when she's in a rush to get there. But then you just kind of walk through your house and like evaluate where you want to do everything and blah, 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 blah. And she was walking out of our bedroom and said, "Oh, yeah, actually, I should tell you what happens if you start going into labor before I'm here or start birthing the baby before I'm here." And I remember distinctly thinking, yeah, right. That's not going to happen because Lennox's labor was so long. So she tells us what we're supposed to do, like get to the bed, lay on my side. And what was really cute is that Lennox was paying attention to that because he was telling me all the way up, "Mom, if you have to have the baby before the midwife gets here, you have to lay on your bed and lay on your side." And I was like, thank goodness you're listening and paying attention because I totally forgot about that. So anyways, that was just funny that she even said that. And my thought was, I won't need that. And then the fact that Lennox kind of reiterated it a few times for me, like in those following weeks. Because then all of a sudden on the phone, Kayla's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm just leaned over the bathroom sink." And she's like, "Okay, you need to get to your bed." And like, did she say you need to get to your bed? Like, encouraged me to get to my bed.
She's like, get to the bed. Yeah.
Yeah, get to my bed, which was like, how far is that? I'm not a very good.
I don't know, call like 8-10 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, so not far, but just get to my bed and lay on my side until she can get there. So that was tough because I was just like, I'm pretty sure this baby's like hanging out of me. It wasn't, but like that's what it felt like. Like I'm just like, it's hard to move because there's like literally a baby.
Well, it's dangerously close.
There.
Yeah.
Right. And so I get to my bed that your mom, my mom, and I had, oh, no, not me. Well, my mom and you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't putting plastic down on the bed.
I wasn't doing nothing except breathing and moaning. So my mom and you had got the plastic down. So yeah, I get to the bed. And I'm still talking to her on the phone and still having the contractions. And she's like encouraging me not to push the baby out. But I mean, frick, that baby could have just come out. Like,
well, yeah.
I was like really practicing my breathing to like not push, but I wasn't even in control. My body was just doing it, which was so cool because with Lennox, I didn't have that experience. My labor stalled. And then essentially he ended up getting pulled by like the vacuum. So like my body was doing completely different things this time. And I was like, I'm not even doing anything. I'm just breathing. But like I could feel the baby moving through. And then I remember at one point she's like, "Put your hand down there and feel if like can you feel your baby's head?" And I put my hand on, I couldn't feel the head, but I could feel like a bulge, right?
Yeah.
And so I said that I can just feel a bulge. And she's like, "Okay, that's fine." So she was just like really coaching me. And then all of a sudden she's like, "Okay, I can see your house. I'm hanging up." I'm like, okay. And so she said it was really cute after because my mom was like standing at the door, well, with the door open, but just like waving them in. I can just picture my mom doing that too. But I remember hearing is so I'm like laying on my side doing my thing. And I also distinctly remember telling you that when I'm in labor, I want you to just tell me that I'm doing a good job and that our baby's almost here. And like I am powerful and like things like that, right? Like my body's doing it. I'm doing it, which I probably will get into that a little bit as to why, obviously tied to Lennox's birth. But all I recall when the midwives arrived, because they arrived at the same time, was like huffing and puffing and like,
wow, they're like carrying hockey bags up the stairs.
I couldn't see that because my head was just kind of like in the pillow. But yeah, all I hear is them like huffing and puffing. And I remember Kayla being like, "Whoa, okay." And she told me after that she just like kind of looked over and seen like the bulge, which wasn't his head, but it was just like the sac because my water actually didn't break. So that was kind of neat. But I do want to say that like I was never once concerned, afraid, nothing. Like I just, and I thought I might be. Well, actually, I didn't think I would be, but I was very curious to see how it would all go because I worked a lot through my whole pregnancy on all of my fears around birthing, trusting my body that I could even birth a baby because of my experience the first go around. And of course, all of the fears of things going wrong and then like losing my baby or losing myself or all of that. Because I mean, I have a cousin who died in childbirth like 18 years ago. It's not like it was like a long, long time ago. My mom had a stillborn baby. Like, so there's all these intergenerational things that I felt like I was processing as well through a lot of this pregnancy, and working through my body and creating space in my hips and releasing emotions and trauma and all of the things that I've held within there. I did so much work, right? Like every night I was moving and I was crying and I was journaling and I was just creating space for this baby to come out, and I was visualizing. I visualized many times this baby coming out in my bedroom. It wasn't on my bed. It was actually like on the floor at the end of our bed where I visualized it. But I had visualized multiple times this baby like coming out and like pulling the baby. I keep saying the baby because I didn't know the sex, to my chest, and like hugging it or kissing it and just smelling the baby and incorporating all of my senses into this, and you and Lennox being there, and my mom being there, and the midwives. And so the safety of it, like really creating the safety of our birth ahead of time. But then when the time came, I never once felt scared. I had even told Kayla that I didn't want to use the Doppler because I hate when you can hear the heartbeat. And I remember with Lennox, like every time they'd use it, my nervous system was in a completely different place then as to now. But I remembered I would always just be like, something's going to be wrong or something's going to happen, like anticipating something to be wrong, which probably has a huge part as to why he didn't end up being born at home, Lennox. But I didn't feel that at all. And they did use the Doppler because it all happened way too fast. And so at one point, so I was laying on my side when they get there. I don't know what was happening. What, did they just glove up and like grab a few things or what?
Yeah, pretty much. Like they're, Kayla was like the one in charge, obviously, or she was like your midwife, right? Mm-hmm. So she got her bags open. And like you said, yeah, gloved up, kind of just started assessing the situation and what she had to do. And then her partner, Jen, mm-hmm. she was, getting all the other bags ready and getting stuff out and doing different things. But it was all quite fast. So yeah, she was right away, just kind of in there doing what she could, really.
Mm-hmm. And just to give you an indication of how fast, Bear was born 9 minutes after they got there.
Yeah. Like fully out. Yeah.
Yeah. Like in my arms 9 minutes after they got there. So when we say it happened fast, it happened fast. And I just had my like final appointment with Kayla last week. So my discharge appointment, which is like so saddening. I wish that you could have your midwife for like life after. But it was a very emotional day. But she told me that they wrote down that like my whole labor, like that second stage of labor was like 40 some minutes or something. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but I just remember thinking like, whoa, that happened really fast. But okay, backing it up to when they did get there and they checked his heart rate, it had dropped a little bit, which is like completely normal, or not normal, but like it happens often. But again, I wasn't scared. Like I was just like, I fully was just like in it, and it was everything I wanted and like dreamed of. And I'm well aware that it could have not happened this way, but I was just like so in it, and I was just like, this baby's coming out. Like I can feel this baby's coming out. And so I remember Kayla also saying, I know this will be the very last thing that you want to be doing right now, but we're going to get you to roll onto your hands and your knees. And we're going to help you and we're going to support you. So it's funny, like the things that I just like remember, like there's certain things I cannot recall at all, but there's like certain things, especially things she's said to me, and then like things that you said to me that just like still stay in my mind. So then as soon as I got into my hands and knees, his heart rate was back to normal. And I couldn't tell you how many pushes it was, but he was out.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. It was kind of funny too, because Lennox was in there that time. He was with us, and then
when I went onto my hands and knees,
I think when you went on your hands and knees, then that was when he was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go play some hopscotch here, guys."
Did he actually tell you, or did he just disappear?
No, he said, I'm gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna go play hopscotch or something. Oh, so good on him. He was like, he did hang in there, which is cool, and to be part of that. And obviously he's at an age now, like he'll remember these kind of things, right? Like it's those are memories. So that's pretty special. But yeah, no, you got on your knees, and then literally like a couple pushes, and then his head was out.
Okay, but you can't just say and then his head was out. That head coming out, that was,
for me it wasn't that bad. But tell your side of the story.
Something. Again, I never felt, so they call it the ring of fire. I did not experience that with Lennox either, because again, by the time we had Lennox, I think I was just so numb. I didn't have any medications with Lennox either, but I think I was just so numb, and that
Wow,
vacuum
just
pulling
tired
him
and
out was
everything. Yeah.
just like, I think desensitizes everything. So the ring of fire is definitely an interesting thing. I remember just being like, holy shit. And in fact, I think once his head popped out, I did say, holy fuck.
Yeah, it was just like, yeah, it was just like, whew, holy fuck. But it was just funny because like, what was it? Like Lennox had one of the biggest heads in Africa because that's where her other midwife,
Yeah,
she's
it's like,
like,
you have to explain that.
yeah. So our midwife in Vancouver, she delivered, I don't know, however many babies in Africa. She was an older lady. And she said that was like one of the biggest heads she's ever seen. And then Bear's
Mhm.
head was even bigger than
Yeah.
Lennox's.
Bear's head was 0.6 centimeters bigger than Lennox.
Yeah. So good on you. Good job. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's kind of funny to say because I'm like, okay, so we're talking about my vagina and how big of a head can come out of it. But it's also like quite amazing what our pelvises can do and what like women's bodies are built for. It's actually one of the biggest things that I kind of had to face, that like my body could birth my baby because I lost trust in it after Lennox's labor. But a lot of women are told that, you know, your baby's too big, you can't birth it. And there's actually a term for that. I cannot remember what the term is. But it's actually, and it's possible that your baby is too big for you, but it's actually very rare. And it's actually the fact that women sit like this, like we're cross-legged, we're sitting. Our way of life is so different than it used to be. And so there's a lot of closing up and tightening of all of our, like our pelvis, our hips, that therefore do not open for a baby to come out if it is a bigger, larger baby. It's not because our bodies are not designed to do it. And so that was one of the big things that I worked on for pre-pregnancy, like prep, was so much hip opening, so much like allowing of my body to open. And I remember like 2 weeks later when Kayla came to do like our home check, because that's another great thing about having a midwife, is that they come to your house like 24 hours later, and then I think it's 72 hours later, and then at your baby's 1 week birthday or like mark, and then is it 2 weeks?
Something like that. Yeah. And then
You go to the clinic after that for your checkups. But it's like wonderful. But I remember her being like, do you want me to check you just to see? So, and I was like, and she's like, you can look with a mirror and I'll show you. But I didn't want to, because with Lennox, I was like traumatized by looking at my vagina after having him 1 week later. Or no, vice versa. 2 weeks later with Lennox was when I was like traumatized at looking down there, because I was like, holy, that is wild. And then I did it 1 week with Kayla. That's right. I don't think she comes at 2 weeks. I think she just came at the 1 week mark.
Okay.
I went there at the 2 week mark. So she came to my house for the last time at the 1 week mark, and she was like, well, do you want me to show you like what happened down there? And just so you know, for your own body purposes. And I was like, no, I don't think so, because this is like only 1 week postpartum and I don't want to be like traumatized. But I looked and I was like, holy shit, I'm like healed, completely healed. And it just blows my mind that like your body can birth a 9-pound baby. Some women birth 10-pound babies, 11-pound babies naturally. And then it just all goes back to not normal. I mean, there's still things, but so anyways, coming back to that ring of fire, that was just like,
it's nature, Laura. We gotta get you back in the field working. Like, no time.
yeah. Well, that's just, yeah, right. But anyways, coming back to the ring of fire, that was really interesting to experience. I remember you saying like, you made a really funny sound after, and I was like, well, fucking rights I did.
Wow, completely fair. I don't know what else you could describe that as, but
and I do remember swearing, like saying like holy fuck or something like that.
yeah, nothing bad. It was just like, yeah, so you got that, and then
like a big sigh. But okay, so tell them about his head.
yeah, so obviously your water not breaking, and then he was born in the sack, right? Or he came out in the sack. which was pretty cool. And then you could see his face because he was facing up, so he was looking at the ceiling. Maybe that's why he has an infatuation with the ceiling. That was his first thought. He's like, Mom? And then
in our bedroom, he
Yeah.
loves laying on our bed looking at the fan. I mean, babies love moving things and fans, but that is really funny. I
maybe
never
that was
thought
like his
that's
very
where he
first, that was his first
born.
thing. Anyway, so yeah, so he just had his head out, but he was still in the sack. And then I want to say it's kind of foggy, but yeah, I'm pretty sure she kind of like, it was kind of breaking open anyway a little bit. And I
Oh,
think she
okay.
just kind of cleared the
Cleared
space
off his face.
because then it did, like he sat there for a while, right? Like
Mhm.
was it 2 minutes or close to, right?
Yeah, it was 2 minutes because you said, well, Jen said,
Oh
that's
yeah,
2
because yeah,
minutes.
Jen was like, that's 2 minutes. And then because I was already starting to be like, well, we should probably do something. In my own head, I was like, well, the pros are here, but then she was, yeah, that's 2 minutes, and then that's, and there's like, yeah, okay, Laura, we got to push again, right?
Well, I remember also her distinctly saying, do you have another contraction coming? And I was like, no. I was just done.
Yeah,
And then she asked me to push, and I just pushed, and then the rest of his body.
because I think she helped out too a little bit with the shoulders, or something.
Well, no, his shoulder wasn't stuck. I think she was just like prepared
Just making
to
sure
help
that
with
it
his
was,
shoulder
yeah.
or something, because we knew I was going to have a big baby.
Mhm.
Lennox was a big baby. I was big. I was 42 weeks pregnant. So I think she was just more so like prepared, is my understanding, or if she kind of did adjust something. But no, his shoulder wasn't stuck, and she
Yeah, it
didn't have to
wasn't
do
stuck.
that whole thing
Yeah.
because that's kind of like a pretty big thing too.
Right.
But yeah, no, then I just pushed, and
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds awful to say. I just coughed and the 9-pound baby fell.
This grown man was laying there.
That just sounds disgusting and awful, but
But yeah,
I mean, I
no, so
pushed
yeah,
and the
it's
rest
2
of his
minutes, and then
body
there's
came
that
up.
final go, and then yeah, he was there. Yeah, no, it was pretty awesome. I don't know. Obviously, things are even foggy now, and it wasn't even that long ago, but still, because it didn't, kind of same with Lennox, like it didn't look right away, like I wasn't too concerned about gender or anything like that, or like I didn't really register, just like
No, neither of us did with Lennox. Like we were just
making
like,
sure
"Oh,
everything was,
baby."
yeah, making sure everything's cool and stuff, right? So, and then yeah, it was, I think it was me. I can't remember because it was a little bit, not awkward by any means, but it was just because like cord's still hanging out, right? And then you're on your hands and knees, and then baby's kind of like down there, but then trying to like, she has to get him up to you, right? And stuff.
Mhm.
So a little bit of fendangling around there, but no, it's pretty awesome. I don't know what else to say to it, really. Kind of still,
Well, you knew he was a boy right away then, right? Like
well,
by the
that
way he
happened,
kinda
and
came
then he
out.
was there, and then didn't really register right away, but then got looking, and then yeah, it's a boy.
And my very first question, like right away, I was just like, what is it?
Yeah.
Because with Lennox, I didn't ask right away because we were just like, happy
No,
to have a baby.
weird.
But
Yeah.
this time, and I just knew Lennox was going to be a boy. And this time I was like wanting a girl so bad. And I was just convincing myself that Bear was going to be a girl. And then, yeah, when you said boy, I was like, are you sure?
Check again.
But yeah, I'm trying to think, did we miss anything? I don't think so. I did. I wish that I could have seen like what it looked like having the sack on him. And you said that you're like thinking of taking a picture, but you thought it might be a bit like weird or something.
Well, I don't know weird or what, but yeah, it's a little fucked up when you're on your hands and knees and there's like a head sticking out. And it's like, I mean, probably could sell that to a bunch of weirdos, but
No, there's so many birth photographers that take pictures of that kind of stuff all the time.
I guess, yeah.
We didn't have a birth photographer, so we have 0 pictures of that. We only have pictures of like once he was out, you got out your phone and started taking pictures. But I wanted to tell my mom to feel free to take pictures when I was in labor, but it happened too fast. Like I didn't even think I was gonna go into labor.
And her like inner nurse was kicking in too. She's like trying to help these ladies do stuff.
What was my mom doing?
I can't remember, like I couldn't even tell you exactly, but she just helped try like getting in there helping wherever she could, which is a good thing.
Well, what were you? Well, I know you would come and kiss me and say things sometimes like you're doing it. Like you did the things that I asked you to do. But then otherwise, were you just kind of like standing back watching out of the way or what?
Well, no, because I was you were on the bed, obviously, then I was off to the side, and then everything was happening at the foot of the bed downwards,
so
right?
Beside
so I was with you and on that side. So then if there was like needed any towels or sheets or anything, I could get that a little bit.
Right.
But your mom was on that too, pretty good. So yeah, it wasn't like too bad. Just obviously stayed the hell out of the way, and then they give them free reign of wherever they need to be.
Yeah.
So it worked out well. I mean, again, going back, like, I mean, didn't realize how close we were. Like, we were dangerously close to like us just giving,
Yeah.
like catching that right, which I mean happens quite often, I guess, or often. So that would have been cool too. I guess a whole nother story.
Those stories happen quite often,
Yeah.
actually.
I'd be applying to medical school right around now if that was the case. But no, yeah, it was pretty awesome. I mean, just to get that experience, right, for you, well, for me too, but just for you to have that experience because of what happened with Lennox, which was a good experience in itself too, because you have all of that now, right? And
well, we have our healthy, beautiful boy.
Oh yeah, like at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, that's
the
all
result.
I want. Yeah,
100%. But yeah, now you got to experience kind of two sides of that story, right? So it's been pretty interesting, and yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy for me to see anyway, or how lucky it is that, you know, midwives do exist, that people are open to it, especially in central Alberta, like that, like prairie midwives, even they're just that, it's that nice of a place, right? It's, I don't know, it was just a great experience all the way around, because always having you in mind, like you're number one, right? And that's all that matters. Not, there's no like time, all that bullshit doesn't really factor into anything.
Yeah.
Because again, even just that, and then going to the ultrasound, and then the ultrasound being kind of like, what was that last ultrasound? Just like everything, right? Like needing to drink juice to see, and like time, and like
pushing
things not working.
The wand, and being like, when's the last time your baby moved? And it was just a very stressful experience. But...
yeah, absolutely, right? So to have this, and especially being at home and comfortable, and like there's nowhere to go after, and we're home, right? And timing worked out great. Like it wasn't the middle of the night for her. That was kind of, that was pretty deadly, to be honest. Like it worked out really good.
Oh, we actually had our baby. We had Bear on our midwife's husband's birthday. So she was like, it's my husband's birthday. Kind of missed supper, but so sorry.
She still made it home for.
Sorry to Kayla's husband for his birthday. So I guess Bear has the same birthday as her husband. I never really thought about it that way. I was more like, we had a baby. But yeah, no, Kayla at Prairie Midwives was like absolutely amazing. I adored her. I'm like, can we have 10 more babies and with you, and when's your holidays? I'll make sure I plan my babies around that. She was just amazing, because she actually also was a labor and delivery nurse before she went into midwifery. And so I love that she has this like medical knowledge and experience, and then also fully believes in home births and physiological birth and a woman's ability to birth, but can marry those two together. And so it tells you the risks, but also like knows what to look for. And so I felt like so safe with her and trusted her. And I don't know. I think she was amazing. Maybe she'll listen to this one day. Kayla, you're amazing. So thank you. And then it's super cool too, because then we get to like process the birth after with the midwife as well. And so, you know, when she came to our house, you know, in the days prior or following, we got to just kind of ask questions. I remember asking a question distinctly of like, how come I didn't push his body out? Is my body broken? She was like, no, it can actually take 5 to 6 minutes for your body to push the baby the rest of the way out, because that gives your body, like your uterus, time to shrink, and it gives your baby time to move, because the baby has to like move and twist out of the birth canal. So your body's just doing what it does. She just said, when we're at home, don't really like to wait. Or at least my understanding, maybe I'm like mixing this up a little bit, but don't like to wait the 5 or 6 minutes to like get you to start trying to get the baby to come out, I guess, because then like that's using up all of that time, right? And like I said, he just came out with like a simple push. Simple. I think it was simple. After that, felt simple after that.
Everything's way easier after the fact.
Yeah, that was 8 weeks ago. It feels simple now. But yeah, so it's just like an amazing experience to have the midwives. And then like afterwards, yeah, they just like my placenta came. One of my fears was hemorrhaging and dying, which I just picked that up from outside noise, because it does happen, but there's so many like things to look for, and, you know, things that happen to people that, basically like snowball to things. And I'm not saying that that happens every time for someone to hemorrhage or their placenta to not come out, but Kayla was so good at explaining those things to me through my pregnancy and then like in my birth. And I can't remember. She just told me last week too how long till my placenta came out. It wasn't very long. So that came out. They managed that all really well. I didn't hemorrhage. Fine. I did lose a lot of fluid apparently, but also it's hard to tell because when it's on a bed, it's like gushing all over the place. I do recall Kayla at one point saying, I might need to borrow some pants because she like knelt in something.
Yeah, it's getting serious there for sure. The big thing too that I really enjoyed, especially being at home, and I don't know what happens in hospitals, but um, even with the placenta, right? Like she is examining it and checking it all out, and then Lennox was able to be there
Yeah.
and check it all out, and like she was showing him and explaining how everything works or how that
Yeah.
works, which is
Like she
pretty
laid it
awesome.
all
Yeah.
out because they have to check it anyways. Like they look for things.
Yeah.
Um, but she, yeah, explained it all to Lennox. And actually, so we should go back to Lennox did come back up after Bear was born, and they asked him if he wanted to cut the cord, or did you ask him? I can't remember. Or did we all ask him? Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if I did or they did. One of us did, yeah.
But he didn't want to.
No, he didn't want to. No.
So you cut the cord, but it was really cool. Like, so we'll just say that we didn't force our child to like be there and watch it and, you know, do things. He was totally his own free will. We talked about it tons through my pregnancy, what to expect. Do you want to be there? Grandma will be there so she can take you out. Like there was lots of talk around that. It's not like we were just like irresponsible and like this kid's going to be traumatized and see me give birth. And again, like he was free to run downstairs like he did. And so it was really cute to see him come back. And then he was so in love with the baby and then like so intrigued by the placenta. And she explained the cord. So like he got so much knowledge that to this day he talks about placentas and he talks about it as if it's common knowledge and every kid has seen one and knows what they are. And I was like, Lennox, probably not a lot of kids are really going to understand what you're talking about if you say that. So that was pretty cool. But I will also say that I asked him afterwards, were you ever scared? And he's like, no, I just didn't want to see the baby come out. So that's why I went downstairs. And I decided that I'm going to hopscotch until the baby comes out on the hopscotch that we made that morning. He's like, but then I remembered that some babies can take a really long time to come. And so I was prepared to hopscotch for a long time, but I didn't have to hopscotch very long. I was like, man, you are adorable. So cute. So that happened. And then, okay, I'm just trying to think like, what are a few other things like I wanted to ask you or like talk about so that like years from now, when we listen to this, we're like, oh yeah. But what is really cool is like, there's no rush. So like after the baby's born, we just laid in our bed and like I got to nurse him and hold him. And only when I'm ready to get up, I mean, with after an hour, but the midwives are only there for like 3 to 4 hours. So within that time frame, but like they get me up, they like run the shower, they clean everything, throw it in the washing machine, make sure I'm taken care of, make sure I pee, make sure Bear's, eating, like sucking, checking my vitals, checking some of his vitals, checking his vitals, making sure I'm drinking enough fluids. And was there anything else that they do? Like they just make sure everything is taken care of and that you know what's up for the next little bit. And yeah, it's just super amazing to be at home. And then after they left, my mom had that meatloaf in the oven. And fresh potatoes. It was cold by the time I got to eat because it was like 8 or 9. But you and Lennox like brought it up to me, and Lennox was like, Mom, I'm gonna serve you. And he like came up to my bed and asked me how to make the salad dressing, I think, for my salad, because I just make like oil and vinegar. And then, do you want it on a plate or in a bowl? And like he was so proud to be able to serve me, and it just like melts my heart to just know that like he got to be there, he got to be a part of it, he felt so special. And it wasn't because he's been an only child for so long, it wasn't just like his life got like abruptly like all on this baby now, right? Like he was just a nice big part of it. And he was always like, even through my pregnancy, was always like, Kayla let him like listen to the heart rate and stuff like that. And then she let him, and actually, I don't know if that happened at our house or later on in our checkups, but she let him like check things on him and stuff, check or listen to his heartbeat. So that was cool.
Yeah. I don't know what else there would be left with that story. I mean, it's pretty awesome. And then even they take like Jen took like all the take the pool, they take everything, right? And did all that like there's a crazy amount of paperwork that gets done.
Yeah.
They take care of all that. So I mean, it's all just it was a great experience, I think, all the way around. For me anyway. Obviously, I had the easy job, but
were you ever like scared?
No, not at all. Even throughout, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's like an age thing or what, but like even when we're like really close and got you on the bed and like obviously when you're laying there like without the midwives there, like I could see the ball coming out and I was like, I thought it was his head, so I was like, well, here we go. But even at that, it wasn't really like it wasn't a thing. The only hesitation or hiccup I had in the whole process was when Bear's head was out for 2 minutes. I was like, well, I just think to myself, right? I was like, oh well, should probably do something, and then that's right when Jen said like, oh, it's 2 minutes. So I didn't realize that it was like 5 to 7 is okay. I thought 2 was like, okay, we should probably do something, but I didn't know what exactly to do. So I wouldn't know. I don't know what would have happened if it was me doing that. But again, we would have had somebody on the phone, right? So they would have been telling me what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I mean, even at that, I'd like, that'd be a cool story, I guess. A good story for another day. Again, not aiming for that by any means, but I mean, no, there was nothing that really, I think we were just so well prepared in the sense of like all the appointments. I was very fortunate that I got to go with you for basically all those appointments, right? Like, so I like as the man in that I felt very much part of everything as well. So, I mean, no, it was pretty awesome. I mean, everything around it, I couldn't have asked for really a better scenario for me anyway.
Yeah. Actually, Kayla and I talked about that at my discharge appointment of like, we got to process the whole birth multiple times throughout everything, right? Like afterwards at any appointment I have. And they're really good at that because it's very important for a woman to like know, just like to feel like she trusts her body, to know that, why things happened the way they did, like all of that kind of stuff, right? So some of that stuff doesn't come forth for like a few days or a few weeks or a few months even after. But at my very last appointment, like she asked me again, like, is there any other thing that like you are curious about or like, or were you happy with how everything played out and all this and that? And it just came up about you and my mom. And I was like, yeah, my mom and Mike thought for sure, like they're probably going to have to deliver this baby. And they were like, what do we do? But my mom is an LPN. She doesn't practice, obviously, nursing for many years, but she used to deliver babies in our small town. There has been in the room with many deliveries. So I was like, oh, it would have kicked in. Like they would have figured it out.
Yeah, it would have been fine, right?
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, oh yeah, they would have. But you're right. Yeah, she would have been on the phone too. But anyways, we're not going to talk about the should haves, but it was just super interesting, right? I called my sister-in-law after when Bear was in my arms, like after the midwives left and stuff. And I remember she was just like so shocked, like the baby's in your arms. Cause she's like, how did I not even know you were in labor? And it's like, because it happened like so fast, so fast. And I remember saying to them, like right after he came out too, I was already talking about having another baby, but I was like, but not yet. Like, I'm going to have to wait a little bit. They're like, yeah. And I remember Jen saying like, oh, those castor oil babies. So I guess this like means that castor oil babies can come quite fast or like not unexpectedly. Obviously we were expecting the baby to come, but when he was ready to come, he was ready to come. I always laugh because I'm like, he waited till 42 weeks almost. It was almost like then he was making up for lost time.
Yeah, he's getting the hell out of there.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just gonna take my time. All right, it's time to come now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of cool. I just wanted to kind of end this off. I know this is a longer episode than we normally do. But I just wanted to end this off on saying like, it's really important, I know for myself, to feel safe through anything. Like I know we were talking about how is this even tied to relationships? Well, feeling safe, but And birth and labor is very feminine. It's, you have to flow. I mean, you're flowing through the whole thing, but also the ability to open, your body's ability to open, to allow this baby to move through you, to come through you. And I just want to say that, like, that's why having my baby at home was important to me, because I feel safe at home and I do not feel safe in hospitals. I am grateful that Lennox was born safely and we had him in the hospital. And actually, the people in the hospital, I think, were meant to help me realize that in that birth story, in his birth story.
Yeah, but you helped, and Lennox helped a lot of people in the hospital too, right? That opened a
Yeah.
lot of eyes to like the doctor and like pediatrician, like all those people,
Yeah.
changed
We
their
were a
thoughts on
different
some
like
stuff, right?
mindset. Yeah. And they even said that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that everything happened for a reason.
Mhm.
But still, when we went to the hospital to do like the non-stress test with Kayla, she knew that I was like, ugh, like just uptight. Like hospitals are just not my jam. I tighten up, I contract, I like, it's just not my thing. I feel gross. I don't want to touch anything. Every button, or not button, but every beep and like other people, like everything I hear is just like too stimulating for me. It's like sensory overload, but then also my nervous system just gets like way too hyper vigilant, and I'm like, what's this? What's that? And it's just like wouldn't be good for me. And so that's why I think it's really important for a woman to feel safe in order to birth. And I guess I just need to speak for myself. In order for me to birth, I need to feel safe. And so my home was where I felt safe. I felt safe. It was very important for me to feel safe with my provider. I personally could never be like, I'm just going to plan to have my baby all on my own, like be a
Right,
free
right.
birther. That's not me. Do I think that people can do that? Yeah, of course. But I'm so grateful to have someone like Kayla who, um, they're the one on watch and I can just be in my body and like focus on me and focus on everything. And because I am also aware that shit does happen. We're human. We have human experiences. Things happen, unfortunate things, very unfortunate things happen. I know people very personally who it does. And so I'm grateful to have the experience of the midwife, but I love that I could have my baby at home in my space, feel safe, be supported by you, by her. And then also all of the work that I did in my body ahead of time too, to feel safe, to shed a lot of the fears, a lot of, I think, intergenerational things that I was carrying in that area of my body, in my hips, in my womb, in order to bring him through. And so I guess I just wanted to say that it's like, I'm not against hospitals, and I'm not against, if we would have had to go to the hospital again, I would have been just very grateful that we had him. But I just want to say that it's super important to feel safe, to open up, to allow your body to do the thing, to let that baby come out. And I guess that's where I think it's equal or equivalent to a relationship with your partner, and how we always talk about feminine and masculine energy. And that's why our course is called Safe and Wild, is to feel safe within that container. So within that marriage, within that relationship, so that that woman can, you know, open up, so she can expand, so she can feel all the things. So that's kind of the tie into that. If anyone ever has any questions about like what I did before to prep and plan, I'm more than happy to share. And that's actually something that I'm incorporating a lot deeper now into my coaching, not birth prep specifically, but body work, somatics, breath work, releasing the memories and the experiences within our bodies that our bodies are holding on to, that is stopping us from having the experiences that we desire, or to even just like open up and be the person we want to be, because we're carrying so much stuff, so much stuck, stagnant energy. But yeah, if anyone's like ever curious about that stuff, or I mean, if you have any questions, comments about this birth experience, our birth experience with Bear, I'm like clearly an open book. I mean, I've just shared with you about my vagina. So do not be afraid to ask. And my biggest piece of advice probably would be for women having babies, especially if this is your first time having a baby. Like if I could go back to me, which I did do lots of hypnobirthing, and we weren't like we were actually really broke when we had Lennox, like financially, because we just moved back from England and then moved to Vancouver, and like it was kind of a thing. So I mean, it's not like we had a shit ton of money to spend on the materialistic, the gizmos and gadgets and all that stuff. But even if I did, it's so important to spend that time researching and putting energy into your own body, the physiological aspect of birth, physical, emotional, mental, relationship, like prepping for your life to change, instead of like having all of the things and the best and all of the marketed to you things, because it's all a business, all the marketing. Ultimately, I have found in our own experience, not to say we don't have some gizmos and gadgets, we have like a few, but ultimately, especially this go around, we even got rid of more stuff. We were pretty minimal with Lennox, but we're even more minimal with Bear, because I'm like, ultimately, this kid like needs a place to sleep. He needs food and some diapers and some clothes.
Yeah.
And that's like really all he needs. His favorite thing to do is to watch the fan. So, I mean, we could have the carousels and the stands and all of the things, but I'm like, his favorite thing to do. And he's 8 weeks, but still is like the fan, or to look in mirrors, or to look at me and smile, because I'm his favorite person so far.
Some of that, yeah.
And whenever I tell someone that, they're like, well, that's because you feed him. I'm like, come on, let me have it.
Yeah,
I'm his mom.
give me something.
Yeah.
No, that's deadly. But yeah, you nailed it. Absolutely. I mean, even going into Lennox, I was still trying to figure out ways to like, I was just, I don't know, not brainwashed, but I mean, that's what I always thought, right? So I was like, oh, you got to get this. We have to get that. We have to make sure we have all these things. And then once you have all these things, well, not even have them, but once you start getting them, you realize like, this is all like,
it just takes
like,
up space.
It all takes up space, and you got to do stuff, and like, just everything. Yeah. It all just such a hassle. Right. And, yeah, as long as you got like a good wrap, that's like literally all you need. Right. But yeah, no, it's,
well, every person's going to be different. Every
I guess scenarios too.
experience,
Yeah.
every scenario is going to be different. The amount of kids you have changes everything. But ultimately, at the end of the day, your baby needs parents who are like regulated in their nervous systems.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if you have a good relationship, that's best case scenario. And I mean, no, that's not the case for everyone and everything, but like, essentially, if I could just speak for myself, now that I've had my second child and I'm considered a geriatric, forgot to mention that part.
Oh, yeah.
You're 35 years and older and you're pregnant, you're considered a geriatric pregnancy. But I think Kayla told me, and also I read somewhere that they're trying to, no, maybe not Kayla. I think I read somewhere that they're trying to like navigate away from using the word geriatric. And it's like something age. I don't know.
You're old, bitch.
Yeah. Essentially still saying you're old.
Yeah.
But I also, believe that and don't believe that. I think it's all kind of a mindset thing too. And there's obviously like statistics and all of this, but whatever. Won't get into that. I just think for my own self. So now I'm a geriatric mother and my second child. So I'm probably in a different space, but like my children just need a mom who like has peace within herself so that I can give them that, right? They don't need all the things.
No.
They just need me to not be losing my marbles on them all the time, which I mean, Lennox knows the phrase, I'm going to lose my marbles, because that's what I say to him. Like, okay, buddy, I'm going to lose my marbles, or I'm on the verge of, my patients are wearing thin, I will say, after like it's being stretched a lot. But just having like more of the resources to calm myself, know myself, deal with my triggers and my traumas so that I can be present with them, so I can nurture them and I can love them and I can connect with them. I think ultimately at the end of the day, again, I'll speak for myself. That's what my kids need. I think that's what most children need, versus the greatest and latest whatever, insert blank.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, our house is so calm and so loving that it makes everything else makes it easy, right? And I think with this like baby screaming or whatever, even that doesn't last long, like because I'm not screwing back at it and like all these other crazy stuff, right? Like
things can
goes on,
snowball
it goes
really
on and on,
quickly.
right? But yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think that was pretty awesome, and you put the offer out there. So if anyone has any questions, definitely reply, comment, send us DMs, emails. All of that's readily available. If you want to hear more, we could always do another episode of diving deeper into things if you really want to. But
I
I'm
mean,
pretty
what
sure
more do you need to know?
pretty sure you delve into everything. But yeah, no, that was great. And I mean, I guess really the only thing is going back to marketing, Safe and Wild, info stacks.
Yeah.
If you want to get on, no, but if you want to get Safe and Wild, like I know we talked about it a lot. It really is a great program for relationships. It's a great program for a lot of things. And to get it at this price, so on for $49 for 3 days, 4 days, like I mean, you if you're even thinking about it, definitely click the link, check it out. There's gonna be so much more on the back end with that stack, with $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 worth of other programs in it. But even if you get it just for Safe and Wild, so be it. Yeah, it's definitely going to be the way to go, because like I say, you'll never see it like that offered by us. So we just happen to team up with these guys, and this is what it's going to be for this week. So definitely take advantage of it.
But also for someone who's new to listening to this podcast and has never heard of Safe and Wild, I would say essentially it's what we learned in our 18 years together and kind of packaged up in 6 modules. You can go through it yourself or you can go through it with your partner. But basically, that's what's brought us to where we are today, right? That's why we can have the experiences that we have and support and love each other the way that we do. And be more calm and connected for our children. I did tell Kayla, our midwife, that it was like, it's kind of funny. We've been together for 18 years and like, we're in the baby stage, right? And like, I do want to have another baby, and we'll see what life kind of lays out for us. But I had that talk with her, and so I just said, it's kind of funny that we've been together for so long and now we're just doing this baby stuff, but like, so we're kind of opposite of other people. But I'm really grateful for that, because 18 years ago, 15 years ago, having babies would have been a different story for us. 100% would have looked a lot different. But whether you're in your baby phase or you already have children, learning foundational relationship tips and filling your toolbox with skills and tools to strengthen your communication, to strengthen your connection, to strengthen your intimacy, to allow that all to flow. I mean, there's never really a bad time to start doing that. So that's essentially what's in Safe and Wild.
Yeah, that's a great way to sum that up. Well, that was awesome.
Okay, well, it's been like an hour and a half that I haven't like physically went and looked at my baby or touched my baby, and I miss him. So I got to go.
Okay, well, we better get at it then. So, well, thank you for that story. I love you.
I love you too.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Check out our offerings on social media at The Revived Couple and online at therevivedcouple.com. Have a request for a show topic? We love that. Send us an email at michael@larocquelife.com or DM at The Revived Couple.
And don't forget to rate, subscribe, and review.